we want to welcome a very special guest, Robert from Romania.
From Romania.
And Robert, you want to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Hello, I'm Robert Bartolomei. I'm the developer of the Prometheus Newsfeed app, and I I'm here talking about the app.
Thank you so much, Robert. So we're talking about Prometheus, the news feed app that I had posted on our mailing list. And you also have another app that I have talked about, but hasn't been talked about as much as the Prometheus app, and that would be the um, classic e-reader. But we
Yes, yeah.
want to talk about both really because they are both, have different functions that they do. And how about you take us back and talk about the Prometheus news app, what gave the idea, and then, we go from there.
Okay. Well, at the time when I started working on the Prometheus news app, I was myself using other news feeds providers, also news apps like, or can I say the names of the apps? Or, anyways, other apps, and mm, I found the user interface of those apps to be lacking from the perspective of the point of user interface point of view, and they weren't very intuitive from my point of view. So I started. Gave me the idea to make an app that for me it was easier to use, and also more intuitive and with a simpler UI than others. Because, for example, some of the apps have a very fancy way of showing the news, but it's very hard to navigate through in the app.
That makes sense because at least you know how to write an app now. So if it were someone like me, I find an app that I like, or but then the interface is not good, I am stuck with it.
Yeah,
But at least for
luckily we
you,
have.
you decided, hey, I need a better solution. And frankly, I think this is the reason why we wind up having better and better apps because,
Exactly. Yeah.
people like you who at least know how to write apps, then you see there's something not adding up right or something not particularly right with a particular given app for a particular task, and therefore you write your own and then you correct those issues. And what winds up happening is that knuckleheads like me now have a better app because of your observations. And so that was really good.
Also, from because the user gave me feedback on the app, and I constantly change it and upgrade it. So it's not only my my design here; it's also the user feedback that drove the app improvements, sort of speaking.
That's right. So you hear from users, but then the idea first came to you based on
Yes.
your observation of the ones that you were using, and you were not satisfied with what you saw, and therefore decided, I think I should take a stab at writing my own. And then you put it out there, and then users like me come along and say, hey, Robert, if you could do this or add this and that. And that takes us to the part of accessibility because I am blind. And for me and our listeners, accessibility is always key. And when we talk about accessibility, we're making reference to, things like the screen reader. And of course, this app of yours, when it came out, it supported TalkBack. Now, how did you get the idea of making it accessible to TalkBack?
Well, actually, from a user, he asked me in a email that if I can add this functionality so it's compatible with Google Talkback, and got I documented myself on this app, and learned how to make my app compatible with Google Talkback, and got to work to change it.
Was that too hard of a thing to do? Because, as a blind person, sometimes when we contact, developers asking them to make things accessible, following Google guidelines of accessibility to make it accessible for whether one is using a screen reader or whatever. The usual thing that we hear from most developers is that, oh, this is time consuming and I don't have the resources to do that. Now, how did that come across to you? Was it something that you thought it was going to be such a huge undertaking, or how was it in your experience?
Yeah, at the beginning, before I learned how to do how to make the changes in my app, I had that the same impression that it's gonna be very hard to make the changes, and it will take much time to do it. But after I got my documented myself on Android guidelines, sort of speaking, it wasn't that hard. It's true. It took me like, I don't know, a week in my spare time to make the changes. But in the end, it's not that hard. It's doable, sort of speaking.
The Prometheus app is fantastic. I've used the app a lot, and I use it almost every day to read news feeds. The app is very
Thanks.
nice, and I
Thank you.
congratulate you for including accessibility in the app.
Thank you very much. It means a lot to me to hear this from my users.
And then, Robert, one thing that you added of recent, and that came with the last update, was the ability to use the TTS because, we go back to a blind person. You're reading as a blind person, and maybe the article is a long article, and I want to just shut off my screen and just listen to it, as to having the screen on, to read it with talkback. Now, you added, and I think I contacted you about adding an ability to use a
Yes,
TTS,
yeah.
and that was a while back. And you said, yeah, you're going to take a look at that. And sure enough, the last update that you pushed out actually now has that TTS support. And it's such a joy to see that, because I want to be able to find something that I'm reading, shut off my screen, and I'm listening to my readout, using my headset or whatever the case may be. And then, was that a hard process? How was that experience for you?
Well, not really. The thing was that I had also to fix some important bugs before I kind of had to redesign a little the interface to upgrade some packages, because I was receiving some complaints that the application was crashing when switching to news details to the article. But after that, I started working on text to speech feature. I was a little familiar with integration of text to speech from my other app, Classic Reader. That one had since a few years back this functionality, and that needs also upgrading, by the way. I need to make some updates to that. And yeah, it wasn't very hard to do.
So,
But
so you have another app called a cache reader. I don't think I knew about that.
no, sorry, classic e-reader.
Okay, yeah, that's right. So we have that TTS integration now, and I think my last email to you about it was, see if there's going to be any possibility of you making it to where one could pick one's choice of TTS with which to read. Because in its current state now, it would be using one's main driving TTS. So, for instance, if my driving TTS is the Google TTS or the Acapella TTS, that's what it would be used in reading out the news for me. Now,
Yeah.
what most of us blind people tend to do is that when we have several different TTS engines, we use them for different things. We could use one for navigation, use one for when I'm recognizing, currency bills or, banknotes and things like that. And then when it comes to reading either ebooks and stuff like that, then I also choose a different TTS to read. And so that's why I was asking you if that was a possibility. And I know that, it's busy for you, but, sometime maybe if you have time later on down the road, said, something you might look into.
Yeah, actually, I'm working on it. I started work on engine text-to-speech engine selection, and I need to test it right now. I'm in the testing phase. But the thing is that I found only a cappella, another text-to-speech engine similar to Google Text-to-Speech. And that's the only one on the market because I try to have more engines to test, so I can be sure that it works properly on all of them. I don't. I
So
don't.
actually, Robert, what happens is that, those, if one has multiple TTS engines like I do, and, Austin does, and most blind people do, once, we click on that choose TTS, and, it will show the TTS engines that are available
Available,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
device. And so, once you have it to where we could, choose TTS engine, it will take us to the default where the TTS engines are located, and from there, based on what we have natively on our phone, then we can choose from it. So once you are able to do that, to where it points it to where it could look for the TTS, directory, we are fine. We'll be able to get what we need from there. So I think so far, as long as you are able to test it, with maybe finding the acapella, then I think you are good to go.
Should
And
be
like
okay.
always, though, if you want, you can always send us, like, send me an APK or send Austin an APK, before you publish it, and we can test it and report it back to you, our observation, because I have maybe
Okay.
like 19 different voices. Now I want to check it against those.
Okay, perfect. We'll do that.
Yeah. Now, so how about you tell us about, the interface, how the app is, what it does, because I know it's a news feed, someone may, those that haven't heard about it yet now wouldn't know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. So it's news feeds provider. And actually, it's a news feeds aggregator. So it you register the news feed source on the app, and after that the app extracts the feeds from that source that you provided, and it shows you the news, and you can read the news, the each article that it's registered there. It's nicer with the text to speech. Now I'm also using it and, most of the time. So
You see, that's what I meant, because it's not only the
yeah,
blind really that needs that, because maybe you're doing something, working on something at your house, or maybe you're
yeah,
walking
yeah, yeah.
down the street, and you have your headset on, you can listen to your news, and it's the same thing goes for the classic e-reader. And so, should we move to the classic e-reader? I mean, so we're having a price of 2 for 1.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're having you now. We might as well talk about the classic reader as well. So how about you take a little bit of time and tell us about the classic e-reader?
Okay, so Classic Reader, it's an app that can read books in EPUB format. So you can, if you have any EPUBs on your phone, you can search for them in the on the app, and it has auto search features. It just gave it main directory, and it searches for EPUB extension on your phone if it has the permissions to do so, because some on different Android levels, the higher the Android level, like 9, 10, or now the 11, it restricts more the access for the apps on the different folders. So in Android 5, for example, like Lollipop, it was pretty simple. You had access like everywhere,
Yeah.
almost everywhere. But
But now
it's
we have a restriction. Yeah.
exactly, it's a kind of it's better because it's a security feature that it's better to have for all of us.
And it makes sense to me because, like for me, on my phone, I have a folder that is called books, and all my books are placed in this particular folder. So, if using an app like the classic reader, I'll just point it to grab stuff from my books folder, and so it's not combing all around my phone trying to find books. And I think it saves both me and the app some time in finding what I'm looking for. Now, another feature that I usually like in e-readers is the ability to have a table of contents support. Now, I don't remember. I know I have it, and I should have looked at it before I came on today. Does the classic reader support table of
No,
contents?
at the moment, no. At the moment, it doesn't support table of contents.
Okay.
So the thing is that I will add this feature in a future release. But the thing is that table of contents, not all of EPUBs have this table of contents because it needs to be registered inside the EPUB into the book. So the app can know and read it and provide it to the user. I'll try to add this feature in a future release.
That makes sense because some books have table of contents. So, if I don't want to read like the preface or like the forward to a book or things like that, and I just want to jump straight to chapter one or, something like that, I think that surely comes in handy. But, as time permits you, I'm sure that you would look into this feature as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I will make the changes.
So in our mailing list, we got a email from people saying that Amazon Kindle is not accessible. So will it read books from Amazon also, or only EPUBs?
For the moment, only EPUBs.
And I think
Uh,
because Amazon books are, DRM, protected, and
yeah,
even
yeah, yeah.
if one has access to those, those cannot be read. So yeah, it's a problem with the Kindle because Robert, what we like to do as blind people, if I'm not reading the text using my eyes, then I'm using my ears. There's absolutely no reason for me to keep the screen on. And so what we have,
Yeah.
is that with Kindle is that once you turn off the phone, you shut off the screen, and it finishes reading the page that you are currently reading, then it stops because the screen is off. And Amazon just doesn't get it. And I don't know what to do. It's like I want to pull my hair off.
No, it's actually I know about it. Also in my classic reader, it has the same issue. I think it was made. It was a change made in Android system, in a version of Android system, and thing of compatibility. Because it used to work. The app used to work also after you finish the current page. It goes to the next page to read. I'll make the proper changes also because this is a bug I was planning to fix since a few weeks ago. Um, Probably this will be the first in the next release. This bug fix. It should work after these changes. I'll make sure it works also. It continues to read the next pages.
That would be great because just like I've described, most especially if I'm reading a book, and I'm blind, I definitely want to shut off the screen and just listen.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a huge feature, and I'm glad you've observed that and you're going to be working on that. That's really good.
Yeah, as I don't know how to say, as compromise, yes, temporary compromise until I release it. Could set the font to set the dark mode to the app, and after that to set the font to black, so it doesn't. Emits too much light, practically no light, and it doesn't consume the battery that much. But if you press by mistake the power button, it will stop. So this is only a temporary
Yeah.
compromise. So just to be,
And that makes sense. And then the because it all depends on the time that one has their screen auto shut off set to. Most users don't know how to change that, so it's by default like 30
yeah, 30
seconds,
seconds. Yeah.
something like that. And so if
Yeah, I
we
know it's a
you know
problem.
yeah, so I think the best fix would be when you're able to do that, and that's the thing we've been hounding Amazon on. Most of the other apps, have that capability, to read with your screen off. And so, Robert, I am optimistic you're going to do this because you've always come through. So
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I think you will do it.
It's not too much responsibility now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we're looking forward to it. And like I said, if you want, either me or Austin, to test something before you publish it, just send us the APK, and frankly, we'll be more than happy to, beta test that for you. So,
Yeah, we will give you feedback.
yeah, and that
Okay.
takes off
Perfect.
that load off your back because you're already busy doing this and that, and then you're finding time to try to test that. That's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think you've told us a lot, Robert. Unless, if you have some more things you want to tell us about it, since you haven't had dinner, I'm gonna let you go eat.
Thank you. Yeah.
So tell us, where from Romania are you? Are you in Bucharest? I think that's the
From
only place
Bucharest.
I
Yes.
know is Bucharest.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, great, great. So, Robert, can we have you back another time again? Because after you've done all these fixes, frankly, I'd like you to come on back and let's talk about it again. And talk about the
Sure.
changes that
Sure.
you've made and things like that. So, when you do these things, and if you have time, I want you to come back, and so I'll remind you about it so that if you have time, then you could come back again with an update, give our listeners an update.
For sure. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Austin, any
Thank
words to
you.
our,
Also.
our friend before he goes looking for something to eat?
Thank you, Robert, for all the accessibility work you have put into the app.
Thank you also for using the app.
And yeah, thank you
Okay.
so much. And we appreciate you doing this because not many developers are willing to do this. And I can't thank you enough for making the changes and making it accessible to, those of us who are blind. Now, prior to, I should have asked this, but have you run into any blind person using a smartphone before? Robert?
No.
No?
No.
Yeah.
No.
So
So
now you know that we do.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you
Sorry.
so much. Appreciate you, bro. Really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you also.
All right. Thank
Bye.
you. And have a good one. And you will be coming back on.
For sure. Yep. Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye. Thank you so much.